It's been the backbone of politics in America since, well, America. There's even a category named for one of our famous presidents who participated in a lot of them. We're talking about debates, and if you were hoping to see a debate between the candidates who want to run the state of Idaho, well, I have some bad news for you. For the first time in a very, very long time, there's going to be no governor's debate here on KTVB ahead of a November general election. Governor Little declined our invitation, telling us, like he told us during the primary, his record speaks for itself. Winner of the May primary over the Idaho Democrat side, well, that'd be Stephen Heidt. He told us this morning that he, too, is out. Ammon Bundy, who is running as an independent, well, he previously said he may want to participate, depending on who was going to be participating with him. But that's all a moot point now. The Heidt campaign didn't say anything about Bundy by name, but in a statement said they essentially aren't interested in debating a third-party candidate like Bundy, calling the idea to debate, well, unproductive and speculative. So a throwback to that May primary we already mentioned. Little didn't debate then either. He wasn't and isn't alone this time around. Republican congressional candidates, they're not doing their debates either. So what about this whole debate thing anyway? Is it just out of fashion right now? It's been 20 years since a candidate from the Democratic Party has won statewide office in Idaho. If so, what are voters losing in terms of decision-making resources before an election without a debate between the GOP, an independent, and the Democrats? Chief political reporter Joe Paris talked through those debate discussions with Idaho political science expert Dr. Stephen Heidt.
Are political debates in Idaho dead forever? The answer is likely no, but the new norm of not debating in major statewide races continues. Republican incumbent Governor Brad Little says he will not debate on statewide TV ahead of the November general election. And Little's opponent from the Idaho Democratic Party, Stephen Heidt, he told KTVB earlier today that he also will not be debating. Dr. Stephen Heidt, an Idaho politics expert at Boise State, says there are certainly negative consequences of candidates continuing to skip major debates.
Well, I'm a little old-fashioned when it comes to debates. I think those are a very valuable way for the voters to see all of the candidates for the races, to evaluate what their stances on issues can be, and to become familiar with that person. So I see it as a great loss that we are seeing increasing numbers of candidates who opt out of the debates.
Some critics of statewide debates in Idaho say it's pointless because Republicans tend to win those races no matter what is said in the debate. The last time an Idaho Democrat won a statewide race was 2002. And so while that is true, Dr. Heidt points out that debates are far more than just a one-time conversation.
This is still a chance for voters to evaluate these different candidates. There may be ideas that get batted around in a debate that can be followed up later by that candidate of either party, right, when they win, and by the legislature. So I think there's some value in seeing our candidates evaluate ideas, talk about what they might bring that's new, and without the debates, we lose that opportunity.
And to me, the debates seem to have these organic feel conversations. And, you know, the candidates will come in with talking points, but when you have like a social media post or you have like a campaign ad, it's very structured. It's rarely in the box. To me, it seems like debates are that one window into, okay, organically, how does this person process thoughts?
That's correct. How do they think on their feet? What do they do when they're challenged? How do they respond to a follow-up question? And of course, a campaign ad never has a follow-up, right? So the opportunity for the moderators in these debates to say, what you said is interesting, let me ask you a follow-up. You don't get that online in an ad or a produced YouTube video. And so I think the voters ultimately are the losers when nobody will come to the debates.
So why are candidates, mostly Republicans in Idaho, declining invitations for debates on free statewide television to allow voters to watch the candidates for themselves in real time so they can decide for themselves the difference between the top candidates? Well, Dr. Heidt says this decision is likely linked to a national message we've seen a rise in popularity in recent years.
I think some of it has to do with GOP messaging around the mainstream media not being reliable, or that they have an inherent bias. And so if the debates are hosted on these mainstream TV networks, for example, or PBS, that they may not be fair. And as a strategy, I understand the Republicans bowing out more than I do the Democratic candidates, which has also happened in this session, in that If you are pretty sure you're going to win, why even give the opponent the standing to be shown together with you in a debate like there's a real contention? So I think that in some cases, maybe in the governor's case, in some of the statewide, the congressional races, the thought is if I concede to be in the debate, then I'm conceding I have like a credible opponent, and they don't want to give that stature to those other candidates.
Other than not having the debates themselves, how do you think this changes the elections and really, I guess, the election seasons here in Idaho? Because it looks like this is likely going to be the norm going forward.
The thing I'm afraid that this does is it reinforces the echo chamber nature of getting all of our news from social media. So you only look for and see the people whose feeds are similar to yours and who reinforce what you already think. The debates used to be one of those places where we could listen to people with whom we do not agree and try to find some common ground, or at least look at how we might look at our common problems together.
Here at Channel 7, we are working to bring you some other debates. We can't announce the details just yet, but I can tell you we're looking at some highly contested races, including Attorney General and the Superintendent of Public Instruction. Again, Brian, this isn't new or unique to Idaho, but it is a very important conversation that the political candidates are having, clearly amongst themselves and their staffs.
Well, what Dr. Witt said, really quickly, Joe, I want to interrupt you, sorry, but she said something about, it's like discounting the other opponent, like they're not a worthy opponent. And to me, that is like saying, well, I'm not going to consider other points of view. In a debate, you can kind of hear that, and you can hear what the other side is saying.
And we heard Governor Little say in May, and we heard him say it, late last week. He says, my record, it defends itself.
Right.
Well, we talked about this in May. Your record can be defended, sure, but could also be questioned.
No record is indefensible.
Correct. And just because you say your record's, indefensible, that doesn't mean other people have a different perspective. So that's where personally, and we're talking personally here, I see value in debates because it shows this organic exchange of ideas live. You don't have an earpiece in, you don't have someone feeding you lines. The candidates are on stage, the people at home are watching in real time, and you for yourself get to decide what's defensible, what's indefensible. It's really, in my opinion, it's not someone's job to tell me, no, you can't attack my record. You can't question my record. I'm telling you that as fact. Well, I'm telling you it's fact. It's not.
So again, alarming trend that we're seeing here. The primaries, it was an unprecedented primary with a really contentious one. We're going to see kind of, how this continues beyond this general election. But right now, we're missing out on some pretty big debates not happening this year.
And again, this isn't just like a small debate. This is the debate between the top candidates to run the state of Idaho.
Right.
This is a big deal.
All right. Thanks, Joe.